thank the residents who left home in this terrible weather tonight to come to our meeting. Did I say residents? How about the president? Tom, thanks. Always nice to see you. We'll call the meeting to order for Thursday, February 16th, 2023 at 7:04. We'll call the meeting to order. Christie, if you would call the roll.
Trustee Husani? Here. Trustee Gutierrez?
Here.
Trustee Porter? Here. Trustee Kemper?
Here.
Trustee Bancole? Here. And Trustee Brigi? Here. Everybody is here.
Thank you. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Hearing no changes. I'd like to move 786. Okay. Thank you. With that, Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole? Yes. And Trustee Brigi?
Yes.
Great.
Thank you. Any presentations? Seeing none. Town hall session. I think Tom has signed up for town hall.
Yes. Tom?
Tom, come forward. Thank you, Tom.
Oh, thank you. These are just a couple of off-the-cuff remarks. And first of all, good evening.
Good evening.
And thank you for having me here. Really just a couple of comments. My name is Tom Clark, and my address is written down for the village clerk.
Thank you.
First remark is I just simply wanted to extend my compliments to the Public Works Department for this afternoon's snow removal. And I'll finish that one up by saying if there was ever a snowplow rodeo, I'm sure Hanover Park would likely take first prize. My compliments, and it's time after time again, they've done an outstanding job, and my personal thanks. The second one has to do with the, I guess, fairly recent Canadian Pacific Railways with the acquisition of the Kansas City Southern Railway. And given the recent derailment, and a rather serious one, in East Palestine, Ohio, this is more of an open question. I don't expect it to be answered, but it's just a concern or a thought. Is Hanover Park and perhaps the other pertinent suburbs in discussion with the railroad regarding the prevention of such accidents in and around Hanover Park, as we have a metro right-of-way right by us here that's a heavily traveled freight line? And does this call, for instance, of some regulations as to what freight can be moved through the town or through the village or nearby here? It just raises all sorts of questions. I think there's a big difference between canned milk and maybe some caustic substance or something where if a tank car gets pierced, does it do an aerosol action and give some sort of a poisonous gas or vapor that would, 1 mile south or north would probably do the village quite a bit of harm. I'm just curious as to what's going on. I don't need an answer tonight, but it's on my mind, and I trust that it's on yours as well. And with that, without any questions, that concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Tom.
you.
And it probably would behoove me to give an update, and not now, but the train situation is EIS. Has been presented. The STB will be reporting out within 30 days, I understand. But we've been active trying to curtail some of the impacts. So we'll see what the STB does. And I'm confident, having served with the president of that board. So we'll see. It's I think we've done everything we can. Our managers have been involved. Bi-weekly meetings or weekly meetings. Thank you, Juliana, for all that. So it's a serious concern, and so more to come. We'll be reporting out.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quite a second.
Village President's report. I've been so busy, I don't know what to report first. I do know that Black History Month in the schools have been not serious, but dialogue and understanding of our history. Martin Luther King had a dream. We've been actively working that dream, integrating that dream. Our board doesn't look like it used to. The schools don't look like they used to. The future is about being intentional about how we find ways to accept one another, to work together, and to reach consensus together. I believe those differences at the table provide for a better outcome, and I celebrate our board, probably the most diverse board in Northeast Illinois. So that's a key component. Metro board I had this week talking about the more people coming back to Metro. We're slowly seeing that. I think a big part of the problem, people would love to return to work, but there's a lot of fear going into the city of Chicago with the crime that's occurring that has to be taken care of. Went to the White House, and the big city mayors, I'm talking about the District of Columbia, New York, Miami, the big cities, LA, all said to the president, you need to lighten up on stay at home. We need people to return to their jobs. We need folks are social animals. We need them back in our downtowns with the parties and the things that used to occur. And we feel that it would help the mental health of many people who are just sitting at home trying to do things. So that was a message from a lot of the big city, the heavy hitters that were with us when we went to Washington. Another key component was around these assault weapons, and there has to be a way to get this all under control. And so that's a work in progress. I'm encouraging, seeking to get that under control, but I'm a real advocate that nationally we have to resolve the illegal guns that are out there. There's way too many illegal guns. So it's been an interesting month with all that dialogue. Locally, I'm really proud of where the village is at. I've sat in a lot of meetings. A lot of the grants are starting to come through. We're being asked about those grants. I've met with most of our new legislators in the state and the House. Meeting Saturday with 3 congressional representatives. So that'll keeps me hopping. So I really enjoy building those relationships on behalf of this board and the people of Hanover Park. So with that, I'll move to approve by omnibus vote items on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Those items are 7A1 through 7A5 and 7A7 through 7A10.
Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
And Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Thank you. 7A6, move to approve the 24-month service agreement between Flock Safety and the Village of Hanover Park for the installation of 10 license plate reader cameras and authorize the village manager to execute the necessary documents.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion, Trustee Porter?
I think that with all due respect to my office, thank you. with all due respect to our police department and the fabulous work that they do, I'm troubled by the installation of these cameras on a couple of reasons. Number one, the location of the cameras are centralized in an area that I think is heavily populated by, what's the word that we use now, Lisa, that we don't use for minority? I'm sorry.
Diverse
Diversity.
community,
Diverse, okay.
communities, or maybe
I'm
low
trying.
income as
Herb
well,
was
but
listening to you like
definitely
you.
diverse, definitely diverse.
Okay, diverse communities where we have people of certain ethnic groups. And I think that in putting cameras in those areas, it represents what I think is an intrusion of the privacy of the individuals that live there and a dangerous intrusion onto our civil liberties to the point that it comes close to being a misuse of technology. I think that what happens is that this undermines civil liberties and creates an atmosphere of fear and suspicion in our community. And for that reason, I think we have to be very careful when we install surveillance cameras. And I read through the report, and I know that the videos will only be kept for a limited amount of time. I just have access. I have problems with who has access to the information, how it's going to be disseminated, how will individuals who have been surveilled be able to know that they've come under surveillance, and you know, how do they address those issues. I understand some of the reasons that were given is that for the help to solve crimes, they won't do anything to prevent crimes, but not necessarily, I can't say that, but they are not necessarily there to prevent crimes, but to help in the solving of crimes by tracking license plates based on reports that are given by maybe observers or witnesses to a crime who call in and don't have complete identification of a vehicle, that these cameras can help them get that more complete identification and to do that. I'm just real concerned because, you know, we went through a period after 9/11 where we gave up so many personal liberties as a result of searching for personal safety. We started taking off our shoes. We took our belts off to go through airports. We gave the law enforcement unlimited, almost, authority to search and to surveil us. And I see that slope and that trend is continuing, and I see this as another step along that, what I think is a dangerous trend to our own personal freedoms, our own personal liberties, that I think go real close to becoming in opposition to what the Constitution allows is a guarantee of privacy for each individual citizen, which is in the First Amendment that supersedes even the Second Amendment, which is the right to bear arms. So I'm just have concerns. I want to make sure that if this goes forward, that we take every possible step available, I should say, to make sure that this isn't overused, that it's not become repressive on our citizens, and that the distribution of these cameras, I think, needs to be, there are none in the south side of the city. So is that to say that there are no crimes down in the south side of the city, and we only concentrate these, I think 4 of the 5 are over in the Tanglewood area, and I know that that's a high crime area, but how will these cameras assist us in dealing with the crime that exists there? I know coming in on and off the tollway is another area where, you know, some of the cameras are located for individuals, you know, entering and exiting town. And I get what we're trying to do. And I'm all for, you know, abating the crime in the area and mitigating crime. I'm all for that. The hair on the back of my neck just kind of stands up when I think it starts to infringe on our personal liberties and our personal freedoms.
Well, I think that introduces the chief to speak to crime prevention and catching the bad guys. I'm a total advocate for this, chief, and I understand and I respect Trustee Porter's perspective, but I know that there's somebody out there today we might have caught if we had this in place. Chief, if you don't mind.
Yeah, first of all, I do appreciate and understand your concerns, Trustee Porter, first of all. I think I should clarify that these are not video cameras. They're not similar to the cameras that blanket the city of Chicago, for instance. What these do is they capture still photos of the back of vehicles as they drive away. And so it's capturing...
Sort of like the tollway cameras?
Correct. It's different from the ones at the toll booths in that those are video capture.
Okay.
These are only still images. As far as what happens with the data, certainly understand concerns with that. I can address that, by saying that the images are only available to us at the police department. We don't own the cameras per this agreement, but we own the data. And so the access to that data is controlled in several ways. One is it's unretrievable and automatically erases after 30 days unless it's flagged. There's an audit capability in the system such that supervisors can review what people are doing, number one. Number two, an officer who goes in and tries to query it has to enter all their information. The system tracks the date, time, and computer that was used to make the query. They have to enter a case number, so it has to be tied to an active investigation, and that'll be reinforced by policy in that anyone who misuses it would be subject to significant discipline. The system connects to the National Crime Information Center in that if there's someone who's listed as a missing person, or if it's a stolen vehicle, or someone wanted for a serious crime, it will notify us, but it does not query Secretary of State data, and it does not query leads. So there's no personal identifying information that's generated through this camera system in and of itself. There is a public transparency portal.
Sorry, could you pause?
Sure.
So you said if it is flagged by a warrant or a missing child, or what was the other option that you gave?
So we could we could go into the system and enter in plates that we're looking for, either for a crime or for, from time to time we'll get an Alzheimer's patient who drives off, or a missing juvenile that takes a car, would be some examples. We could enter in plates that we're looking for, and then the system will notify us immediately if that plate is detected on any of the cameras in our system.
Okay. And then you said that we would not, it would not allow us to have access to the Secretary of State's identifying.
No, not from this system. We would have to use our MDTs for that and hand enter the plate and query it into the Secretary of State database, which is also tracked.
MDT.
Mobile data terminal. That's the computer that's in every squad car.
Okay, thank you.
Where was I here? Oh, there's no third-party sales of data, and the department, as I mentioned, owns the data in terms of what plates are recorded on the cameras over that 30-day period of time. There's a concern mentioned regarding the location of the cameras, and so I want to address that briefly. About 85% of our Part 1 crime occurs north of Schick Road. And so when we look in terms of as we're trying to solve crimes, as we're getting reports of crimes, and we want to identify the most common or most likely areas of egress or routes of egress that someone would take after committing a crime, that is what guided our decision in terms of where to put these cameras.
Chief, and thank you for the information, and I followed it. But let's take, for instance, our latest situation that we had in the village, where we had an unfortunate death over in the Tanglewood area. How would the camera have assisted in resolving that case? Were there any reports of someone seen driving off? Or let me just not answer my own question. How would it have assisted?
On that particular case, I'd rather not get into too much detail other than to say, yes, it would. But one of the things that we did too is we, we took a look at major crimes that we faced. And in a command staff meeting, we identified the investigative process for instance, homicides in Tanglewood in 2020 and 2021. And one of the things in the debrief that we noted was how long it took for us to actually identify a vehicle. Oftentimes, we'll get a partial description, a color, a make, sometimes a partial plate. Very rarely will we get a full plate from a witness. And so in those two particular homicides, it took us weeks to identify the actual vehicle that was used. And so in those instances, if we had these cameras placed, I would be able to, number one, I'd positively identify a vehicle as being, the suspect vehicle, and then number two, the added benefit of being able to place a suspect in an area at a given time, which is a major aspect and component of prosecution, successfully prosecuting someone in a major crime such as
And
that.
how long does it take you to run a plate through, you get a report, you get a partial plate, how long does it take from the time that you get that partial plate, you get a full plate, and you identify the vehicle? What kind of time elapses to do that?
It all depends. If we run for instance, if we run a query, if we get the first 2 or 3 letters of a plate, we can do a query with the Secretary of State where we enter parameters and we say, maybe we have a color, maybe a make, maybe not, and we say, all silver Toyota Camrys with, these 3 numbers included in the plate, but we could get a printout, enormous.
Without the camera.
Correct, yeah. Now, if I've got the camera there that can identify that plate, then I know whose car it is immediately, and I don't, have to expend hours and hours of, trying to guesstimate routes, pulling toll cameras, querying the city of Chicago for their, they have mobile LPRs on their tow trucks that have come in great assistance for us in the past when we've been looking for suspects who fled to Chicago and things like that. So it will greatly enhance the efficiency of major crime investigations. Yeah, and also regarding the locations, there are about 100 agencies, I think this is in the memo, there's about 100 agencies in Illinois that have these. And our neighbors and the locations of their cameras make it, that would be redundant for us to place our own cameras there. For instance, Roselle has Central and Gary, Carroll Stream has County Farm and Army Trail, Bloomingdale has multiple cameras off of Schick Road, Bartlett has them as well coming into town at Stearns and Newport. They've got 4, in the area that leads into our town out of Bartlett, and so, we discounted some of those areas based on the location of our neighbors' cameras that are already existing.
How many municipalities in DuPage County are, do we know?
I don't know if I have an exhaustive list.
I don't know if the
But
fact that so many other municipalities has it makes me feel better or worse about the cameras existing, I guess it is what it is, but I don't know if I get any comfort from that.
Anyone else? Any other questions?
So, yes. So first, Chief, thank you for the information that you provided. And I would say that I also share some of the concerns that Trustee Porter raised. I want to talk a little bit more about our internal policy. So I know that you mentioned, someone would have to log in their information before they can access the images and things of that nature. Is that by rank? Is that by someone who's assigned something? I mean, I just want to know a little bit more about what that would look like.
Yeah, sure. So each police officer would have their own, unique login and entry into the system. I mentioned that everything they do is tracked in there. Every query is tracked. Every, case number that's entered is tracked, the date and time and which terminal. There's also a portal that supervisors can go in, and I could give supervisors and the command staff, based on their level, access to, that portal in which they can check on and review the queries that are being made by our officers to make sure they're appropriate. We do something similar with in-car video and body-worn camera, where supervisors are required to randomly, query a set number of these videos and watch and make sure that, officers are following policy and doing what they're supposed to do. So something similar would be put in place for this.
I also just want to make a comment. So after 9/11, I do know that many Americans who are Muslim American, or people who thought, people who confused Sikh Americans for Muslim Americans were targeted, and reports have been shown that there were government programs that were in fact spying on them. And then when we look when we look at the history of our country, we know that unfortunately there are times when African Americans were watched by government institutions, right? The institutions that we're supposed to put our trust in. And so to Trustee Porter's point, when you do look at the location of some of these cameras, they are predominantly either African American or Latino. And so I just want to make sure that the location of these is useful to our department, but it's done in an equitable way that does not have the appearance that this could in any way, shape, or form be used as some sort of surveillance on minority groups that have already experienced this from government institutions. Does that make sense?
It does, I understand. And really, what it comes down to there is the only thing that it's capturing is photos of license plates at a given time on a given, street in town. There's no facial recognition to it. There isn't anything that could really, other than, I get a list of license plates, or the officer gets a list of license plates, and then we have to match that up, to a crime or through another system. But there isn't anything that, would recognize someone by their appearance, whatsoever, facially.
I just have one other, and then I'm done. I appreciate you being very thorough with your answers. First of all, what type of encryption is done on the data to protect it when it's captured? What kind of encryption is done to protect the data?
Yeah, it's stored in a cloud similar to, what like the federal government utilizes their, through the Google Cloud to store their, sensitive data. So it's encrypted, it's cloud encrypted in that there isn't a, corresponding hard drive or at the police department in which the data would be hard stored. It's all through the cloud.
Okay. And what protections do you have, and this is a far-fetched example, but I think it's one I want to ask, for an individual that may have had a beef with me at the bar and then turned around and called my plate in for suspicious activity. Do you track who's calling in and reporting a plate for possible crime or criminal activity, so that there's some repercussion to make sure that when people are doing it, they're doing it in an honest manner?
Sure. DEWCOM captures that data. Our dispatch center captures that data. They'll have access to the phone number that called.
Okay.
From time to time, people will want to remain anonymous, and they'll take steps to try to, ensure their anonymity. But, that data that you mentioned is definitely captured by DEWCOM at the call to 911.
Okay, thanks, Chief.
Very good. Any other thoughts, anyone?
Yes, I have two more questions.
Okay.
So the residents that live quite close to these locations, how will we be notifying them of this new technology?
I wouldn't have an issue with making an announcement that we have these things. They're not there to, for neighborhood surveillance. They're not, for example, they're not, they're not live video, they're not the shot recognition cameras, they're not, it's in no way like what, you know, what's up in the city. And so I don't, I wouldn't have an issue with people knowing that they're there, frankly.
Okay.
They don't capture any more information than red light cameras, do they? Or do they?
No. No, it's very similar, but red light, the difference is red light cameras, you know, they capture video. So you can play the, you know, the actual, this is just going to give you stills.
No. So is that something that we could communicate to the residents before its installation?
Certainly could, yeah.
Okay. And then my second question is I read about a mechanism with this particular company in which someone that wanted to look up to see if they had been flagged or not, it sounded like it was like some sort of like portal. Is that something that we?
Yeah, they have, there's a
Yeah.
public transparency portal,
Okay.
and we could share, you know, similar to how we, you know, we publish some of our policies online every year in the annual report, like use of force and, you know, internal investigation data is shared by us. There's a portal through Flock where we can share the policy, number of hits, the number of searches that are done, you know, similar information.
So it just automatically comes with it, like we don't have to opt in?
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
that's part of it.
So. So we can help out and see if they're. And,
I don't think there's a way to do that. I'm not familiar if there is.
And so just to clarify that, and, you know, if you don't have the answer, that's okay, but this portal, is this something like we would have on our website, or we would have, like, we would say this is where you can find it, or
Yeah, certainly, we could link it on the police department page.
on the police department?
Yeah.
page? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Are we, any other? Hearing no others? Good dialogue, good questions. Chief, thank you for those responses. They were excellent. Like I said, I'm a total advocate of anything that solves crime. And letting the residents know they're out there is, I'm okay with that too. Christie, call the roll, please.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Frigie?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
And Trustee Gutierrez.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Nice call out, Trustee Porter. Where am I? 7A11. Move to approve warrant 216, 2023 in the amount of $1,254.86.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Frigie?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
And Trustee Gutierrez.
Yes.
7A12, move to approve warrant paid in advance, 1/23, 2023 through 2/08, 2023 in the amount of $640,850.56.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion, hearing none. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Frigie?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez.
Yes.
And Trustee Porter.
Yes.
Thank you. 7A13, move to approve December 2022 P cards in the amount of $1,162.68.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Frigie?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez.
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
And Trustee Kemper.
Yes.
Thank you. Village Manager's Report, Monthly Treasurer Report.
Yes. So we have the monthly treasurer's report for December. If you have any questions, please let us know. This is still not final. I think we're still waiting for some revenue to come in. It's delayed state revenue. Okay, so we had talked about finishing up Schuber's report.
Yes,
Right.
Board agreed, under your report, to have Shubra finish the last 3 pages.
I think there's more than 3.
Was
I will
I
check.
mistaken on how many pages were?
A couple more than 10.
Okay,
This is where we were, connecting our work program with the strategic plan objectives. And one of the strategic plan objective was also to grow our downtown into a destination. And towards that, the first step that was taken was a very significant one, took a lot of work and a lot of time. Thank you to the Development Commission and the Village Board. But we did end up adopting the Village Center zoning, new districts, new rules and regulations, and any new development that comes in. For instance, the one that we were looking at before at Church and Lake will have to follow the new code. And
Is
this-
Church and Lake a mixed-use development or no?
The one that's proposed
Yeah.
is
Is
residential.
it just residential?
Just residential.
Only?
Correct, yeah. The zoning does allow for mixed use, however, the site being so shallow, it was determined that it was appropriate to only have residential.
And just to clarify, when we say Church and Lake, we're talking about
Northwest corner of Church and Lake.
where the.
Where the billboards
billboard
are.
is?
Yeah.
And the
Okay.
billboards will go away.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Thank you.
It only took like so long to get rid of the things, right? Hopefully.
And as that development gets reviewed, it'll also test our new zoning code, so that if we need to tweak something or come back with some amendments, we'll look at that as well.
Shubra, real quick, going back to that. So the one on Church and Lake, including the ones towards Lake Street itself, those are still only residential. It's not,
Correct.
first floor is not store.
Right. The Village Center core districts allow for a mix. So for instance, our South Commuter Lot, and I'm gonna get to that. One of our objectives was to facilitate redevelopment of the South Commuter Lot. So we did issue an RFQ, and this is where we are looking for qualifications from developers to redevelop the South Commuter Lot. The RFQ deadline was February 3rd, and the proposals are currently under review. As the next step, once the proposals are reviewed, we may invite the developer to actually come in and provide additional details for developing an actual proposal. The illustrations that you see here are the ones that were done by our consultants as suggestions or concepts for the redevelopment.
how many did you receive?
I think we received interest from 3
3.
with a possible 4th. The question is, I mean, the next step will be where we can see whether they actually put in a full-on proposal.
Right. And that's what's being evaluated right now.
So we could, I guess the next step would be an RFP.
Correct.
We will
And then there may
invite
be additional people that,
No, we would go back to
from
those
this
who,
list. Yeah.
we would go back to those who, through the first process, had given us information or expressed interest. And then we will go invite them if we think that they're qualified and would build something based on what they've done in other towns, that if we think it would be a good fit for the community, we would invite them to submit a proposal. And that's all going through SB Friedman and Associates.
There was an original deadline in early December, but then we felt that with the holiday season, et cetera, we needed to, the feedback that we got from some of the developers was that they needed additional time. So the deadline was extended to February, and that's what's being reviewed right now. The other objective was to keep our codes current and more progressive, et cetera, and these are some of the initiatives that have been taken. Hanover Park is part of a multi-community Lake Street zoning overlay. And as you might remember, the consultant had come and made a presentation. Draft reports are being put together. I've been attending those meetings, and I will be forwarding you their latest outline.
I know at one time our sign code was a major area of contention with some of our business owners. Have we overcome that hurdle, and are we more in harmony with what the business owners want in terms of what we allow and don't allow with signs and?
Well, that is a separate issue, but as part of text amendments that.
When you're talking about code updates.
Yeah,
just
yeah,
maybe, okay.
certainly, and that's a continuous process. I mean, you'll remember in 2014, there was a major overhaul of the sign code. Then we did another one in 18. We brought some more in 2020. So, well, along with COVID, and each time we've been trying to respond to the needs of the business community, but at the same time balancing it with the vision for what the leadership, what we have set in the strategic plan, and what we want to see as a community. It's a balancing act, as always, and typically what a business or some business may want, you have to apply the same rules to all, and then evaluate the needs based on what happens is if every business is able to do this or that, and then we come up with a recommendation. We always take it through the Economic Development Committee and then bring it.
Have we given any thought to, like we've done with the facade improvement plan, when that plan has run its course, to maybe doing something with signs where we could do some type of investment in helping the businesses upgrade? Because some of the signs are, are within ordinance and within code, but they're horrible signs. And so have we ever given any thought to maybe doing a similar program?
The good
sign
thing is
improvement?
that with the facade improvement grant, there are 2 signs that we are in discussions with that are currently non-complying pole signs, or just non-complying, not very aesthetic signs, to put it correctly. And we are hoping that those signs would get redeveloped into code-complying signs. Similarly, anytime, and this is already in our code, anytime a sign face changes more than 50%, or there are certain criteria that they have to bring the sign into compliance. So we are working on that with a yet 3rd pole sign that will hopefully come into compliance as well. But again, all of those are still under discussion and review, and as they come forward, we'll be bringing those to you for approval.
I see cannabis listed. Do you have any?
Not there yet. May I? Okay. Hanover Square sale was another planning project that we are going through right now. The Village Center zoning I mentioned, and then the tobacco and recreational cannabis. And with that, I am here. Sorry. You had a question.
No, this is.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is one that we also completed, and again, trying to keep up with the changing regulations from the state. It was reviewed several times. We brought back amendments, and last year we adopted a zoning amendment for cannabis as well. So at this time, with the revised criteria, there would be 1 business in Cook and 1 in DuPage that would be allowed with very specific criteria. And Development Commission and the board would both have oversight.
As I mentioned to Shubra during the break, I attended a cannabis networking event downtown Chicago. Had maybe about 100 people or so, and a number of people representing operations for dispensaries, grow cultivation operations, retail dispensaries, and so forth. And I think I got some pretty good leads that I'm going to be sharing with economic development and some people will be calling to follow up with possible dispensary operations in town.
I would mention that I've had a couple of conversations since the text was amended, and mostly there have been inquiries. We provide all of the information about this is what the community allows for, here's the criteria, and here are the potential sites that meet those criteria, and we've not at this time received a formal application.
Before we move on, any sort of, in these conversations that you've been having, any sort of comments such as, oh, the location in which I'm able to operate in seems desirable, or, oh, you know, the location that you have listed here, in my opinion, would be more desirable over here? Have any sort of comments of that nature come up?
We have the criteria in place, which is very consistent with a lot of other municipalities as well. The conversation has not gone further to them narrowing down a specific site. There is one shopping center that also is in the state's what's called the DIA, disproportionately impacted area. And so if there was an entity that wanted to locate there, that would be eligible. But again, it's a special use, so it will have to go through the Development Commission review, public hearing before it comes to you. And before any of that happens, we will evaluate whether they meet the criteria or not. So, but no formal application in yet.
Thank you.
Same thing for tobacco licensing as well. As you know, we went through updating the code, and I think we've already gone through our first round of business licenses for tobacco now. So, this is some interesting stats. I was able to reach out to one of our local realtors and obtain, I thought this was really interesting info about our housing market and the trends in the last few years. This is all single family. And as you can see, the average time a property stays on the market is like that. Comes on the market, and this speaks towards the desirability of Hanover Park as a community that people want to live in. The dollar goes farther, they are able to find properties, and they get snapped up really quickly. Properties don't stay on the market long enough. Average sales price has been going up. Average number of homes that are on the market has gone down. This is new information about new listings that they're in. So this was really encouraging information that despite COVID and the market doing what it's doing, our average sales price has gone up significantly. With that, I did email out a whole lot of attachments to the board this evening, and one of the attachments provides an economic overview. One has like a market report. There's demographic information, employment information in there, and once you've had a chance to look through it, please feel free to let me know if you have any questions. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. I know it's a lot of info.
Thank you for your presentation.
Pleasure.
A lot of data, a lot of commitment to time. I know I've seen your car parked out there past 6 o'clock many evenings.
Oh, every evening.
And Schuber, I appreciate that. I think there's a lot of detail within this, and a lot of, there may be some additional questions that come along.
Absolutely.
I can tell you that I've been approached on the cannabis front by the owners of Caputo's. My sense of Caputo's in their lot, which is acceptable, brings the accountability to a higher level, because their name is in that shopping center, and they don't want to see any screw-ups. The big question that keeps coming across, will the village accept consumption on site? And I am not an advocate of consumption. I don't know if anybody on this board is, but my sense tells me that's not a good thing.
State doesn't even allow it.
Yeah, yeah. Let me, you know, get high as a kite,
State
and get in
allows
my car.
consumption.
So,
State does allow consumption? No, they shouldn't.
I know of no legislator that's looking to pass any kind of consumption component. But to be asked that, you know, I find it a little disturbing from time.
Did you say the state does allow it?
On-site, I think Wheeling,
I don't know, I don't think the
Looking
state does allow.
Interesting.
I know of no state legislation that permits it. Not even in the weeds. Bad analogy. I did it again.
Waiting
Oh,
outside
boy.
for DUI.
and the next text
I'm in the
amendment.
wrong business.
The next text amendment that will be coming before you would be electric vehicles,
Pardon me, with what?
electric vehicle charging stations.
Yes,
Oh,
yeah.
well, it came to my attention after the meeting that one of the trustees shared a photo where they're already installed. And at that location, they can use those things for advertising. I'm not, you know, I'm not out here to advertise.
That's what we'll be discussing, right?
Okay, okay. And I thank that trustee for sharing. I'm not gonna say who it is. But I already got a thumbs up.
But it's
Okay,
not- it's
so
not Trustee Van Coley though, right?
I'm not abusing our trustees, but appreciate any information sharing. So it's all good. And
Thank you.
where the heck are we? Let's see here. Juliana, did you have anything additional?
Yes, I would like to give an update on the fire station to the board. We did have the bid opening. Christie, how many do we have? We were there for a very long time opening them.
It was a good turnout.
It was a very good turnout. So we, our consultant is reviewing the bids. There were over 100 bids for the different trades. And we will come back. We are in the process, they will be vetting all of the bidders and the low bidders, and then we will be evaluating that against our budget. There were several alternatives that we did bid, and so we will be weighing that against our budget and bringing you a recommendation. My estimate right now is that it will be coming to you on March 16th with a recommendation. And if it's over budget, then it will be, here was the recommendation within budget, and here are the things that you may want to discuss doing that are outside, and then we will let you know how, if we can, how to cover that cost. So I just wanted to let you know that on the 16th, most likely we'll be ready to come forward. The schedule, we're on schedule right now, so we want to make sure that we stay on schedule for this to open next January.
Okay, and I'd like to just share that I met with, as I meet with our representatives, one of the new representatives we have is, with the state is Hershiser?
Mara Hirschauer.
Maura Hirschauer. I'll say that enough times so I get it correct. But one of the wills and wants that I discussed with her was the fire station, and the gap that we're seeing might be $2 to $3 million. And so she said, I'd like to try to work that one to help us with that gap. So that was encouraging conversation, and I'll, you know, my ongoing thing with all our needs and wants. We're really, Hanover Park, it's one of my goals, always keep that in mind with our legislators. And a lot of what was it, what year was it, 3 years ago, 2020, the capital opportunities have taken to fruition. The ball fields are looking really good. that's in place. The Mussman put in for the safety crossing at a railroad station. That'll be completed, I was told yesterday, next 3 to 4 months. So I'm really pleased with that. They're gonna relocate that crossing so that people just aren't running up the stairs and across the track. So there's safety components that are built in, so I'm feeling really good about that.
I have two
The,
more things.
We're still holding our breath on the 4 million from Senator Castro. I think we're on the cusp of getting that also. So things keep popping up, but we keep working them. And so I wanted to mention that I'm pushing to try to solve that gap issue on fire station.
Two more things. One,
So I'm very sorry to interrupt you, just before we move on. So you mentioned that you received many bids.
correct.
And did we do something differently to advertise these bids versus other bids that we put out for various other needs?
So we used the process of bidding them through our website and then having the different agencies that then go to ours and then distribute them to the construction community and a more public. I think TJ, probably you know the name of those better than I do. But the conversation that we had at the board meeting about adding additional language to our bid documents was had after these bids were already out on the street. And so that language that we're working on, adding, it was not in these bid documents. We did have a very good turnout, though. Some of them, I think, had like 12 different bidders, so I think we're gonna get good prices.
So we bidded 12, or 23 different items. And then each bid had so many bidders under each item. So that's what made this one longer than specifically, like today we had mowing, like, which was just one specific area. So that's why this one went a lot longer, because there was 23 items that people were bidding on, from specific fire protected things to steel to
Concrete to,
everything.
so what is that called,
Okay.
TJ, when they,
That's my field, but.
we put it on our website and then others grab it and redistribute it?
Hi, good evening. Sorry.
Good evening.
Yes, there are multiple services right now that their only job is to scour the internet and to sign up for every municipal government web service that sends out bids. And what they do is they become sort of remailers of that same thing. So back in the day, there was just one, I believe it was called Bid Tab, and they would call you every week to see if you had new bids. Now that's become an entirely automated system. So every contractor, and I mean, I can say that with a lot of confidence because you're not going to stay in business if you don't know where the bids are. And these services are the ones that give you the opportunity to find out where these bids are. So when we put a bid on our website, we can look at a list and see who's retrieved that individual bid. And right now, it's probably 60-40, or in some cases more, but probably 40% what I would call local contractors, and then 60% automated bid tab web services that then grab it and shoot it all over the country or the world with a direction back to our website. So I would say with a lot of confidence that there probably isn't a contractor in Northern Illinois that did not get a notice that we were constructing a fire station.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. So, just to go back to what we talked about with the language and trying to identify, some of these businesses. So unless they self-report, we wouldn't know if they're veteran-owned or woman-owned.
I think we've asked that on our website, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean specifically in regards to these bids.
Yes, so
The-
when
to
they
the-
go to our website to get the bid, they have to answer questions, and we added those questions onto our, so we captured that information.
For this project.
Yes, that was put on,
That doesn't mean that they bid, but they
No.
got the documents.
right, in order to get the documents, they have to answer those questions.
So we do have that information.
Yes.
I thought you mentioned.
Yeah, we had talked about adding language in the bid document about, that we encourage, diversity amongst the bidders makeup. That language has not been added to the bid document, but we are capturing the information about that specific bidder that's coming and wanting to download our
Okay.
documents.
Got it. Thank you.
Two more things. It was mentioned about the railroad. As the mayor mentioned, the EIS has been, recommendations have come out. Our attorney in CPKC's consortium has been reviewing them. We have a update meeting tomorrow. We anticipate a decision coming from the STB shortly. I will say, it isn't to the point where they're not coming. So, in terms of, that hasn't been determined yet. So we should know shortly though, where and how many and what the situation's gonna be.
So
And
the
if we will
EIS
get, and if we will get any mitigations. So right now, our main focus is, one, we would like them to find an alternative route. That's been our dialogue. But then two, if you're gonna come through here, we absolutely need certain mitigations to address the risks that are involved. And so we'll see if we can get something.
So the EIS is one thing, the performance component of that is what comes with the STP. So I'm really looking forward to that component.
The third thing I have, and the final one this evening is, I think a while back, about a month ago, I reported out that we had received a small amount of money from our opioid payments, and that we would be looking to determine how to recommend that those monies be used. We did just receive $22,000 yesterday or the day before as the most recent payment. In addition to that, we have received settlement documents for the mayor to assign for additional companies that would have to pay settlement amounts. I believe that we will be bringing that additional, Bernie, that additional set of authorization to the board for approval like you approved the last one, so that we can file. I believe we have to file by mid-April on that one. So we will need to have a discussion about how those funds should be applied to like there's set criteria of what we can spend it on, whether we spend it on training in the police department or the DuPage County's mental health efforts. We just need to determine kind of what falls within the parameters and where we feel it would be best applied. And then we have a requirement to report out how those funds are, on a quarterly basis, how those funds are being used. Nothing has been spent to date, so it's just being held in a fund right now. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you very
What's-
much.
What's that total amount? So you said 22,000 and then,
Is that a monthly?
And then 11,000 in July, I mean, in November.
So 33,000 so far.
thank you.
Can I ask a quick question, Juliana's report?
Yes.
Treasurer report. In March, I see several CDs are coming due for like, Remy smiling at that one. 0.14, I'm sure this was painful for you to watch for this long. But what are the rates out there? 4.5 or something? That's what it's coming now?
It is.
So you're already
They're over
shopping
4.
around?
Once those are matured, the next day I will reimburse.
All right, can't wait for April report. All right, that's it.
I don't understand the question.
Oh, oops.
So we have had multi-year or at least month CDs set at, locked in at a certain rate. As we've watched the interest rate go up, we see that once those are open again to reinvest at a higher rate, we will receive additional interest revenue.
About 5 million is coming due, about, or more maybe.
There's a banker in the house.
But seeing 0.14 has been painful because the economy and what has been, but now it's around 4.5, that same rate. So really excited about that.
I know Remy gets excited too.
Yes, me.
Every time I ask for
Connect on
2%,
that.
Safe to put money back in your bank account now, in your savings account, right?
Yes, finally.
God knows. Oh, okay. And are we- Village Clerk's Report. Christie.
We just had a super successful bid opening last week with the fire station. It went very smoothly, so thank you for everybody that was a part of that and helped the clerk's office out, receiving all those bids. Just looking forward to seeing what's coming in the next couple months and all the events that are coming up.
Do you need me to go into the portal?
Very good. Corporation Council Report.
No report?
Thank you. Trustee reports. Any trustee have a report? Oh, never mind. Trustee Husani?
All right.
I had to do that once.
We had a Development Commission meeting on Monday and Tuesday, Economic Development. Shubra has been busy. So both have been great, active, and participation from the committee. The topics that were covered in Development Commission on Monday evening was electronic vehicle charging stations. If we're trying to give some guidelines, some zoning criteria to be pulled together before we start seeing everywhere popping up, like Trustee Bencolis and I just took the name, Trustee Bencolis, sent the picture with the stations being there already. So before we see all these stations popping up, we need to create something around it that is acceptable to the village. So there is many options that they have when they get the station to have a ad running on there electronically. Neon signs on there, how bright the neon can be, how big the sign can be. So everything were being discussed. There were some directions given by the Development Commission to the staff. Staff is going to do some research. It was quite interesting to have the participation and involvement and see how it's evolving. So with that, Economic Development Commission was on Tuesday. Shubra talked about, we're planning of a restaurant week tentatively April. We're still trying to figure that out and research and see if the date would be good compared to what our neighbors have been doing and what's happening around. So that will be quite interesting. We're looking forward for it. There will also be in our next economic development meeting, which is on March 14th, there will be a guest from the library, Schaumburg Library, to talk about small businesses and what they do. So we can direct small businesses, so we don't have to create another wheel when something's working. We can just direct. So that will be interesting to have in our economic development meeting. So is there, there has been a lot of interesting topics and really robust committees. I'm glad to be part of it. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And Schaumburg Library certainly has a robust business component, so very good. Trustee Gutierrez.
Yes. Just want to thank Springwood Elementary School for their superhero lunch today. Really, they're the heroes. This was really cute. It was a soup for heroes, so superhero. It's adorable. It was their National Honor Society that put it together, and I have to tell you, Hanover Park is poised to have a strong female leadership. These young ladies are well-minded about their careers in the future, and I just want to thank them because the teachers there are doing everything possible to lift up our diverse community, so I truly appreciate it. Speaking of Schaumburg Library, last week went with them to a coffee and conversation District 54, specifically for our Ukrainian arrivals and our Venezuelan arrivals, and they're doing a wonderful job, like our other schools, at learning to be welcoming to these new communities. Also want to thank St. Ansgar for their Valentine's Day party. It was the first one after COVID, I believe, and it was really wonderful to see such a rich, strong, united Latino community come together and lots of families and couples. And we truly are a family town, and so as we discuss economic development, that's always at the forefront of my mind. Like, we have to bring family businesses into town as well. I want to remind folks that on February 21st, we have a CIDC meeting, and I'm very excited because today, Valeria was appointed to the CIDC committee, so we have 2 new members in 1 month or so, right?
Right.
This is exciting, and so if they're listening, I want to remind our CIDC members that the meeting starts at 6:15 sharp. Otherwise, it's me staring at Barry and Barry staring at me while we wait for everybody else. And then our historic, you know what that's about, right, Zed? Our historic committee is February 28th at 6 p.m. I'm not sure I'll be there, but this is a really fun bunch, so anybody's welcome to come and help us archive. It happens to be my birthday, so I might not be there. But other than that, they meet at 6 p.m. That's it.
5 days after my wife's birthday. I can't forget that either. Let me see. Trustee Porter?
Very brief today. Just want to remind everyone of our Black History Month event on the 25th. Again, one of our featured speakers will be Chastity Gunn, who is the inaugural poet laureate for Elgin, for the city of Elgin, and she is currently on residence at Elgin Community College, a fantastic young poet, and I can't wait to hear what she's going to bring for us at that event. I was browsing through the Intrasite, the Hannibal Park site, and I saw something that I wanted to bring up to Barry, and I apologize for not calling you and giving you a heads up. But can you tell me kind of what's going on with the anti-racism course that was being given to the employees? Where do we kind of stand on that?
We came up with a recommendation. We finished that last month, and we came up with a recommendation for our pilot program, which has been forwarded to our village manager for recommendation, and we're going to be working on it.
And how many employees participated in that?
Oh, you're talking about the last year's training? All employees had to attend it. So,
The anti-racism training?
okay, that was for all employees, and we had one live session
Right.
that some people attended in this room.
Right.
We also had a team session that people could attend that way as well. And then we had a makeup session where they have to view the video. So
Okay.
all employees did go through that for 2022.
Okay. And after having attended the training, what is the, what are we doing in terms of follow-up and with that to, as a next step or as an ongoing reinforcement? Has anything been laid out for that?
Yeah, we have that in our budget for this year as well, for 2023, and we're looking into the next program.
Okay, all right,
So it's intended to be annual training.
okay.
So we discussed at the department head meeting this, so it has been expanded to all elected officials and all committee members. So the training that we're working on identifying will then be rolled out to everyone, and so we will have different formats so that everyone can make sure that they have a way of experiencing it and going through that.
And that's coming?
Yeah, we haven't identified.
I mean, at some point, yeah.
It's for 2023. It's an annual training.
Okay.
Well, I like the idea, including the board and the committee,
Yep.
volunteer committees. So that's good. Like it.
And finally, I just wanted to make a comment. The mayor had mentioned that he was at a gathering in Washington DC, and that many of the big town mayors were lamenting the fact that workers aren't returning to the traditional workplaces. And I'm afraid that the gig economy has created a whole new paradigm in terms of how people work. And I don't know if they're ever going to return back to the way things were pre-pandemic. The remote workplace and the gig economy is only going to get bigger and more widespread. So I think that what we, as one of those entities that is facing the challenges of that, is that we've got to figure out how do we operate efficiently in a remote work, in a workplace where a majority of workers or a large percentage of workers decide that they want to work remotely. Then how do we accommodate them? And what do we do in order to retain valuable employees, but also meet, again, this new dynamic that exists with remote workers and remote workplace. So I think that's the challenge of this decade, is to how we figure that out and what we do it. But from everything that I've read and that I've seen, I don't know if we're ever going to see that parking lot filled again with commuters going downtown to work in cubicles or offices in that type of work environment. That's kind of my take on it. I'm not, Warren Buffett or anybody, so don't take that to the bank. But that's kind of how I see it. So good luck with that.
And that's why I wanted to share that some of the big cities are struggling with getting people, down in the work environment. So
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
I know it's your report.
No, go right ahead.
So I've had several residents and then also residents from neighboring communities tell me that they would rather purchase, they've done the math between, excuse me, I'm referencing the Metra, the lot that we have for our train station. They would rather, they are looking for an option that allows them to purchase a monthly pass at a cheaper rate than just the daily cost. Because when they do the math, when they purchase a monthly pass, it's the same as just purchasing it every day, and they're more but they don't want to go through purchasing it every day, and they would because their work schedule has changed. I've heard this now several times from our residents and also those that are neighboring. So, is there a way that we could maybe seriously consider changing how we charge the monthly passes? Yeah, the monthly passes.
I think we can take that on.
It would have to be like something that's metered.
We do, but it's the same price.
Like they
It's-
just
You
keep
get-
saying that it's the
so
same
like you
price.
get card, you can swipe or whatever.
So the
Kinda
monthly
like
passes,
passes, where you can swipe, you pay so much to do it, and you swipe it. That's one way of maybe looking at it.
yeah, the monthly pass is a convenience. It's not a discounted, at this point, we need all the revenue we can get for the commuter lot. It's more of a convenience that they don't have to go and purchase each day for the monthly pass. It's when you get to the annual pass that there's a discount.
I understand it's a convenience, but shouldn't we be exploring all options to gain this
metrics have
revenue
changed.
that we are, I mean, just to speak to what Trustee Porter was saying, things have changed. And so we almost need to keep up with the times, otherwise we're just gonna keep hemorrhaging money, out of, this. So I would like to have a serious discussion about maybe changing the pay structure for daily, or maybe we introduce weekly, or
Yeah,
maybe
like
we
Metra.
change. I mean,
So
we
Ventra-
have to,
The
Because
Ventra
Metro
card
has
do that.
a weekly pass. They have a monthly, they have a weekly, and then they have a daily pass. Is that correct, ma'am? So do we have a weekly pass for our Metro parking where that individual that's not going down for the 20 work days out of the week, maybe they're only going down for 6 or 7, that they could buy some type of a weekly pass or a pass that would,
We don't, but I don't know
This-
why we
you
could.
know,
but
this
I
We
is-
don't
have
know
that,
if
but
this-
because we don't have the mechanism like the.
we can
med
discuss it. I'm
cards.
just saying, just throwing it out there. I don't think we're gonna solve it tonight.
No, we're not gonna
We got
solve
other-
it.
Right,
other
right.
stuff
This
to
is,
do.
this is excellent, good dialogue.
We'll look at it
Yesterday
and
at the
bring-
Metro
Thank you.
We'll
meeting.
look at it.
Thank you.
Okay. That's all we're asking, just.
Yeah, we'll look at
just
it.
review it.
But I represent many municipalities on the Metro Board. As a mayor, I'm the only mayor. And so what I hear from many of the mayors is this is a disconnect because people are not coming back. And Metro's jury-rigged its fares to modify people who do not want the monthly pass, okay? So their big fear is all of a sudden the municipalities are gonna start demanding the difference in cost to maintain their lots, okay? So I think it's good that maybe we have some conversation on that, and I can work with the manager and with Metro to try to see what what would be a reasonable alternative to align more with the type of fares that Metro's gone to.
Well, I think you'd be a good point person on that with your involvement with Metro, so I'd be interested in seeing how that plays out.
Yeah, it'll, the fact that we brought that up takes it to a whole nother level for me with the Metro Board. And we've got a couple new members coming onto the board, I think would be more sensitive to that. My guess is Lake County representative, they're gonna name the next Metro Board member. And there's 1 or 2 people that are due to be selected, and I have a good relationship with both. So I think this is something that Metro lives in fear of because they set standards about how many parking places we have. We don't even come close to that. So we need to modify some fares, and rather than nobody's
Right.
buying a monthly pass, at least we'll get some kind of revenue. But I'd like to have that conversation with staff and with Metro and have a better outcome.
Okay.
And if you give me till the next meeting or
Well,
two,
yeah, it's not,
maybe a couple meetings, you know.
yeah.
All right,
that does it for me.
all right, thanks. It's all good. It's all good. Who's next on the list? Trustee Kemper.
All right, so I too am looking forward to our Black History Month celebration on the 25th. Hopefully we normally get a good turnout, so I'm not too concerned about that. On March 4th, we are having our Veterans Committee meeting. We will be working on the Memorial Day celebration. And just to conclude my report, the middle of April, I don't know if anybody's really heard much about the Archdiocese of Chicago consolidating some churches here and there. It just happened to St. Marcelline's and Church of the Holy Spirit. They combined the two. So for us, St. Ansgar, St. Hubert's and Bartlett, St. John, we'll find out the fate of those 3 churches if they're going to be combined, which one's going to be the lead church if they are combined. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. We're keeping our fingers crossed that St. Ansgar will stay where it's at. But right now, everything the Archdiocese has told us several months ago, they've kind of did a 180 on. So there's deep concern. And that concludes my report.
We'll hold our breath on that one. I told the priest, if there's anything I can do to help support the initiative to maintain, because St. Ansgar
It's
serves
important to our community.
more, numerous communities. So, okay, very good.
Jim, I do have one question for you. Sure. The St. Valentine's dinner at St. Ansgar was really nice. I really enjoyed it, but I'm just trying to figure out, I had my taste buds all set for some Mexican food, and we got chicken breast and.
That's pretty much what they do for the
and
Valentine's Day
salad.
dinner dance all the
So
time.
I gotta
Chicken
tell you,
Vesuvio.
I was a little taken aback.
I don't know why they do it that way, but it's been that way ever since they started.
I know you got some ladies
dance,
there to
yeah.
make some mean
So,
tamales.
but yeah,
everything, and I was
yeah.
a little disappointed.
Tamales,
I'm done.
yeah, I'll let you know next time tamales are there.
Herb and I went to
So-
the kitchen and thanked the staff.
So, yeah, Gabriel, he's
And the staff
fantastic.
came out and they wanted a photo with us. So we'll send
It
that
was
to
a great
the,
event. Now, all kidding aside, it was a great event.
Yeah, no problem.
we'll send that to the chief priest.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Never mind. Okay, trustee Bancole, do you have anything additional?
Thank you. I would, okay. So earlier this week, many of us learned of the tragic death of a 41-year-old woman named Clarice Alexander, who was a Hanover Park resident. I would just like to take a moment of silence for Clarice Alexander. Thank you. And to the Alexander family, I'm so sorry for your loss. I hope that the memory of Clarice is eternal. Okay, moving on. I want to thank our staff for the awards dinner that we recently had for our residents, our business community, but also for our committees. I thought it was a great night, and I really did enjoy recognizing and celebrating all the great things that happen in our village. It's been spoken about a couple of times tonight, but we do have an EV charging station in our village. It's the very first one, to my knowledge. I don't think we have another one. I did inquire, so it's located right on Discount Tires, parking lot, and Discount Tire is located at 1470 Irving Park Road. They have various charging stations there, so I was told that they were installed in December. They are actually not up and running yet because they're experiencing transformer issues, but there are different chargers there. You can do fast charging, regular charging, and then they also have an additional charging station there for only Tesla cars. So this is something that we had just discussed in our last environmental committee meeting, and so it is exciting to see this in the village. I did just want to spotlight a business in Hanover Park. They are named Sun 2 Cleaners. They are at the corner of County Farm and Greenbrook, and they do alterations, they do dry cleaning, they do all sorts of things. And the business owner there is a husband and a wife. They're Korean Americans, and I spoke to Mrs. Kim, who was who was one of the owners, and she let me know that she has been a seamstress / in this business for 52 years, and that they originally started this business in Korea, and then when they came to America, they moved. They first moved to Winnetka, so they had this business in Winnetka, and then they moved this business to Hanover Park, and it's been in Hanover Park for the last 7 years. I just tell this story because, one, I've been using their services for years, and if you are looking for a great dry cleaner, I would highly recommend them. But two, I just really appreciate the rich diversity that we have in this village, and you know, it's not only our residents that are rich in diversity, but it's our business community as well. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Mrs. Kim is an excellent seamstress.
Yeah.
My family loves her work. She's an excellent seamstress.
Very good.
Yeah.
Trustee Priggy.
No report.
Executive session, section,
So this is section 2C11, litigation, when an action has been filed and is pending for a court or an administrative tribunal. Also 2C12, to review and discuss claims, receive advice from and with respect to an intergovernmental management association or a self-insured pool of which the village is a member. Also 2C2, collective bargaining, and 2C1, personnel, compensation and performance of a specific employee or employees of the village.
thank you. Christie,
Second.
Thank you.
thank you. Christie, call the roll.
Never get to do it.
Trustee Frigie?
Yes.
Trustee Usani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez? Yes. Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper? And Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Huh? We will not return from executive session.
Too
Tom, you
fast.
can go home now.
This is like a sin.
Motion to adjourn, we have a motion to second. Roll call vote, Christie?
Trustee Frigie? Yes. Trustee Usani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez? Yes. Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Meeting ends at 8:35.